Hi folks, my name is Linda Emmett and welcome to Happiness is an Inside Job. We are the creators of our own reality, we create our own lives. Our mind is our biggest limit and it's our own beliefs, behaviours and habits constantly caught in those cycles that keep us trapped where we are and stand in the way of our own happiness. So throughout this podcast, we're going to take a deep dive into some of those beliefs, habits and patterns, where they show up in your lives and what you can do to change them. Hi and welcome to this week's podcast, where I'm very, very excited to tell you that we have our first guest on with us today. And not only our first guest, but this guy is somebody that I hugely admire and have been studying his material and techniques for a long time now. None other than Freddy Jacquin. And part of what we're going to speak about today is one of the learnings that I've got from him, which I found completely enlightening, where Freddy talks about our fear of hypnosis or hypnotherapy. That if we go and see a hypnotherapist, that we're going to be put into this trance. And Freddy's talk and theory, which is absolutely powerful and very, very true, I've come to realise, is that we are already in trance. The behaviours and patterns that we're running are in their decades. And what hypnotherapy effectively does is take you out of trance and allow you to choose a new trance, a new way of behaving, embedding into your brain and into your subconscious. So now we're going to move over and have a chat to Freddy about this and what exactly hypnosis means to him and the powerful effects it can have. So over to you, Freddy.
People, wherever I go in the world, people ask the same question: what is hypnosis? And I used to say it was a natural phenomena, but what I believe now is that it's a natural ability that we all have, that if we can tap into it, we can change the way we think, change the way we feel, even change our body. You know, we really want to change the way we look or create the body we want. But above and beyond that, it's the ability to concentrate and use your imagination. So what I'd like everyone to do, and you can do this as well, Linda, if you like.
Sure.
What I'd like to do is just clasp your hands together. So interlock your fingers. That's right. Just interlock your fingers and squeeze your palms together, cross your thumbs. And as you squeeze your palms together, pull your index fingers about an inch apart, kind of pointing them up toward the ceiling or the sky. Now look at the gap between those fingers and imagine they're magnets. Imagine as you look at that gap that your fingers are magnets, they're pulling together. There they go. And you may all be getting experience of that now. Feel that force putting those fingers together. In a moment, they will touch. When they touch, just allow your eyes to close. Providing you're in a safe place, just close your eyes. And think about the people you love most, whether that's your partner, whether it's your child, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister. But think about the people you love most on this planet. Feel into that love now. And as you feel that love, every limiting belief that was ever placed on you, every negative thought that's ever held you back is swept from your mind. And as you feel that love, those hands are locking tighter and tighter together. They're super glued together, they're bolted together, and they're stuck. Imagine they're carved out of a single piece of oak and there's nothing you can do about that. When you realize your hands are stuck and there's nothing you can do about it, I want you to try and pull them apart, find a stick even tighter. Do not pretend. Imagine them carved out of a single piece of wood. Feel that force around those hands. As those hands stick tighter and tighter, every limitation disappears. In a moment, I'll count to 3. Your hands will come apart. Your eyes will open. You'll feel incredible because you are incredible. And you realize just how incredible you are and how loved you are. 1, feeling wonderful. 2, to create the life you want. 3, hands coming on, start eyes open, you're feeling absolutely wonderful now.
Wow. I haven't studied under you. I've tried and worked with a number of your techniques, and it's changed the way hugely I work with clients and even my understanding of hypnotherapy. Now, when you say, Freddie, that it's a natural phenomenon, hypnotherapy or hypnosis, sorry, what do you mean by that? It's a natural phenomenon.
We're going into it, going in and out of hypnosis all day long. Might call it daydreaming. You know, when you're talking to someone and the lights are on, but there's nobody home. You know, they're not really listening. They're in that kind of trance state. Or you know, looking at your kid and they're just looking out the window, or kids playing on a games machine. They're in trance. Any top performer when they come off the stage and you ask them, how long they're on stage, they probably go, didn't seem like 5 minutes. Because when they're performing, they're in the zone, then you're in a kind of trance state. Any sports people can enter it. We don't call it hypnosis, but that's what it is. And that's the reason I'm saying that people already come in trance, because, if those who've been listening just had an experience, their hands were stuck. If they've had that experience, they know that all that happened there was I asked them to imagine their hands were magnets and imagine they were stuck. Then I asked them to think about the people they love most. And the moment you think about that person you love, then I've altered your emotional state. The moment I can give you a suggestion. The suggestion for everybody that was listening was that you let go of every negative limiting belief and you'll feel incredible. You realize how loved you are. So just in those few minutes, I'm hoping that the people are listening have had an experience and now are feeling and understanding just that they are incredible. But that can happen in minutes, as I said. So let's take it to the other point where, as we go through life, let's say a woman's had a good day with her kids. She's at home with her kids. She's had a good day with her kids. She's feeling happy. Her partner's had a rotten day. He comes in, says something horrible to her, alters her emotional state, and then tells her she's rubbish, or she's a rubbish mother, or she's no good as a woman. No, there's no difference to me saying, put your hands together and think about the person you love. I've altered your emotional state. That person comes into the house, they alter the emotional state of their partner, and then they give them a suggestion. They're not thinking, I'm going to hypnotize you and give you a suggestion to make you believe that you're not any good. But if that goes on long enough, then that person is going to pick up that suggestion. They're going to start to believe
100%.
that they're not any good.
100%.
But that doesn't mean that they're not any good. It means that someone has suggested that that's what the situation is. Let's talk about what some people call addictions. I'm talking about smoking, talking about cocaine, we're talking about weed, right? Those three things that people call an addiction. Well, the government's call an addiction. And it's in their interest to call it an addiction, especially smoking, because they're getting billions from it. But we know, because you've helped people, I've helped people, in an hour who's been smoking for 30 years, maybe 40 cigarettes a day for 30 years, and in an hour, they quit. Now, that's not me putting my influence on someone. That's not me giving them some kind of weird pill. It's the reason they quit is because they always could have quit. They just didn't believe they could quit because the propaganda is that you're an addict. And if you quit, you're going to put on weight, or you're going to get upset, or you're going to get angry. Once you get past that belief, because that's all we're really doing in hypnosis. I think not just hypnosis, but any therapy, ultimately, the ultimate goal is we're going to change the belief. The client comes in saying, I can't do this, can't lose weight, I can't stop snacking, I can't quit smoking, I can't be happy, I can't get on that plane because I'm frightened. They will come in with the belief they can't do something. So that's their belief. At some point in our therapy, we get them to understand that they can do it. And once you understand you can do something, that belief's gone. For me, smoking, that's the big one. People come in, they say, I can't quit. I've tried everything. I've tried the Zyban, I've tried patches, I've tried going cold turkey. It's really hard and I can't quit. That is the major belief they walk into my therapy room with. I get through it and I ask a question. I kind of sneak up on them, really. And anyone who's smoking out there, who's listening to this, can listen to this question, because I know it's going to change your day, change your life. I talk about the people I see who are dying from smoking, and I do. I've seen over 25,000 people to help them quit smoking. 2006, I saw 5,000 people in 1 year for smoking. So they come in with that belief, and I talk about the people I see that are dying from smoking. I have seen lots of them, people with their tongue out, people with their eye out, people with their jaw off, all of these things who still smoke, come to see me to quit smoking, even though they're in those terrible states. And I say to my client, I say, look, if you'd been to your doctor yesterday, obviously I've asked up front who are the most important people in their life. I'm gonna ask that. Are you married? Have you got kids? Have you got a partner? What are their names? We've got grandchildren. I want those names because I want to use that as leverage. So if they've said I've got children, I've got a little boy called Bobby and a little girl called Jenny, or whatever it might be, I say, look, if you've been to your doctor yesterday, I want everyone listening to this to kind of answer this in their own mind. If you've been to your doctor yesterday and he said, have another cigarette, you die, the chances of you quitting are minimal. And people nod. because they've been to their doctor. They've been told that since they were kids, it's going to kill you. It's not changed. Okay. So I asked that question. If you'd been to your doctor yesterday, said, have another cigarette, you die, chance you quitting are minimal. And they nod. Then I say this, I say, but you have to ask the question. If you'd been to your doctor yesterday and said, have another cigarette and your child would die, you'd quit, would you not? And every one of those 25,000 people have said, yes, I'd quit. I say, have you got any doubt? They go, no. In that moment, that first belief that I can't quit, it's gone. They can still smoke, but they can no longer believe they can't quit. And so all we're doing really is changing those beliefs. And we break down the belief about addiction, we break down the belief about what it's doing for them. And for me, if a client walks out of my room, a smoker walks out of my room, and with any of those three beliefs intact, I can't quit, it's an addiction, and it's doing something for me. If they go out of my room with any of those beliefs intact, they're going to smoke again. So my job is to crack those beliefs, but it's the same in everything that people come in with. All it's holding them to that stuck state is the belief that they can't get unstuck. And the stuck state is being suggested to them or self-suggested. You know, that one of the kind of saddest things about us as human beings, and the scariest things as well, is that most of the beliefs we're walking around with, who we are, what we can, what we cannot do, all of those beliefs, the majority of them anyway, were created, get this, by a child under 7.
Yeah, between the ages of 0 and 6.
You would not have, you know, a 4-year-old girl making a lifelong decision about how good you are or whether you're any good or not. 5-year-old boy deciding on what you could achieve. Most of our beliefs were created by a child under 7. When we look at those things again and realize that they're self-suggested, you know, especially up until maybe the age of 7, we're looking around us and we're looking around for the person who's least uncertain to follow. You know, even as adults, we do that. It's hardwired into us because otherwise we wouldn't survive. You know, when we're children and we're helpless, we don't know what to do to survive. So we're going to look for the person least uncertain. Generally, it's our parent.
Yeah, the caregivers.
And so whatever they say, and bear in mind, most of us, all of us as adults, have our own hang-ups and our own limiting beliefs. We're not being nasty to our kids, but we're trying to keep them safe. But we're only giving them the understanding we have.
100%. We're coming from our own beliefs.
Yeah. So if we have our own fears and anxieties and whatever, obviously we're going to tell our kids. We don't want our kids to get hurt, so we're going to pass those fears and beliefs on. We're a child, and not your mother, your father, people around you are people who appear to be the least uncertain, then we're going to follow them.
Yeah.
And those beliefs are going to be there. But we don't have to, as we get older and we experience life ourselves and we get our own strengths and understandings, we don't have to continue to live with those beliefs.
We do, though. We do, unless, like, we do tend to live, like some of us have lived decades. I know certainly I have, with a number of habits and patterns and that I've carried from childhood. It's like, and it's exactly that. You leave the external environment of your childhood. You leave that home, you leave that place, you leave that school, you leave all of that. But holding on to the beliefs from it, it's like internally you don't leave the environment until you do something like hypnotherapy to show you what you've been holding on to show you that you've been behaving like that child that formed that belief 15 years ago, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Even we were talking about smoking there. Originally, I know for me, I'm an ex-smoker. I originally started smoking to fit in. I was 12 or 13 and...
Over those 25,000 people, I can count on 5 hands, maybe 6, the amount of people that started smoking as an adult. You know, most of them, I was 11, my brother was 9, you know, 13, 14, 15. We look around at that age and we see adults smoking and we think it's an adult thing to do. But the reality of it, we want to look grown up, want to feel grown up. Reality of it is people don't start smoking as an adult. They start smoking as
very rare.
You know, so these beliefs that we have, and then then it's forced upon us that now you're smoking, you're an addict, so you can't quit. You've got to smoke them forever now. It's not true.
You'll get fat, or the withdrawal, you'll keel over, it terrifies people, frightening people into staying on the thing that they want to move away from because they believe they can't shift away from it.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I always look at cigarettes like a really kind of horrific relationship, where that that it's not any good. It's ultimately it's going to kill you,
It's gonna hurt you.
but you hang on because you remember that one night of bliss, that one night of total pleasure with that person. You hang on to that one moment. We forget about all the days and the horrible nights and all that stuff. And it's the same with cigarettes. When people say, "Oh, I love my cigarettes," when it gets down to it, and I say, "How many times a day do you think I really enjoyed that?" They go, "Well, I enjoy one first thing in the morning with a cup of coffee. Well, that's one. I enjoy one after an evening meal. That's two. Maybe with a pint. That's three." And I say to them, and of those 3 cigarettes, you don't sit there and go, "Yeah, that was nice. That was good."
And you don't.
It's the
Yeah.
first couple of puffs. I
Yeah.
said, "You're giving up 30 cigarettes a day. You're giving up 6 puffs of smoke a day that you might enjoy. You have to weigh that against one extra day with your kid." And then it puts it in perspective. But most people come in with that belief, "I love my fags. I love them. All 30 of them." But when you ask it and you break it down, they don't. They don't even think about most of them. It's a belief that they do.
Yeah.
So most of those beliefs, like we were saying, created by a child, maybe 13, maybe 14, maybe a 5. But so I came up with this thing, and anyone that's listening can do this. It's very simple, but I think it's one of the most powerful things that I've created. And I've created quite a few techniques, and I call it the blink and delete technique. Very simple. Anyone that's listening can try it. And you might need, you can get a pencil and paper, or pen and paper if you want to write it down. But this is how it works. So when we come up against a block, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm not any good at this, I'll never achieve that. The moment one of those little voices go up in your head, you ask the question, when did I make that decision? I can't do this.
And I know that with me, just going to dive in there. I've been telling myself for years and years, I actually did cover that a little on a podcast there a while back, that I can't dance, that I have no rhythm, that I'll make an absolute, show myself I'm like big board on the floor if I get up and dance. Now, effectively, when I trace that back, it goes back to forced me being, God, I was about 8 or 9, and I was the tallest in my class, 5th and 6th class. I was the tallest of all the girls and boys. I was up on the stage. They had to put me at the back. I was bobbling around. I had the red hair. They called me the lanky carrot. Scared. I just felt so out of place. And that, for me, every time I think of dancing, I feel like the big board again. And realistically, as I've said many times, and you go back a little further than that, and when I was 5 or 6 years old, I was in this little gang. We were standing on the corner and we were all on our little skates, and we were trying to do the can going down the road, and all the girls told me I wasn't allowed be in the gang because I was too tall, and I threw the whole dance off, and they kicked me out of the skating gang and wouldn't play with me. So for tragic. But for years from those things happening when I was 5 and 6, and then I suppose being compounded when I was 11 or 12, because I already believed, I was big bored. I spent decades loving dancing, only dancing at home, but never dancing when I went anywhere, because I believed I was big bored, I was gangly, because that's how I felt then. I didn't feel like I fitted and blended with the others. Now, realistically, you've seen me, Freddie. I'm 5'6". I'm no big board. I'm not gangly or all over the place, but it did stop me dancing, singing my song and dancing for years, due to a belief.
That's it. But the thing is that this is my thinking. As human beings, we are geared toward thriving. Given the opportunity, we'll thrive. Any kind of plant, you put it in the right environment, give it enough with the right food and enough water, enough sunlight, it's going to thrive. And it's the same for us as human beings. So we're geared toward thriving, but we were only ever making the best decisions with the information we have at the time.
Yeah.
And when we're 12 and 13 or 5 or 6, we haven't got the best information at that point in time.
No.
So we're making decisions, the best decisions we can. No one's making decisions that are harmful for us. Not we don't think we are anyway, but we're making the best decision we can with the information we have at that time. But
Mm.
you've evolved, I've evolved, everyone that's listened to us has evolved. You're not the same person you were a week ago, and you're definitely not the same person you were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, we make a decision when we're 5 or 6 or 13, and then it's kind of a bit of programming. That's it. So we don't have to live with it. So the idea is this: we when we come up against a block, I can't dance. I'm not any good at dancing.
Like me.
A perfect example. You say, when did I make that decision? How old was I? Where was I? Who was I with? And was it even my decision? And the moment you ask the question, you immediately go to where you made the decision. You don't need
Yeah.
20 years of therapy work to
Mm.
get back there, or miles and miles of regression work. You instantly go there like you did.
Yeah.
I'm in school and the kids are saying this, or I'm on a corner and doing a can, and kids don't, you immediately go to where you made the decision. But then what you do is you ask the question from where you are now, from the evolved place you are now, because
Yeah.
you're, as a therapist, some people have evolved, their mothers, their fathers, they're not the same person. So you ask the next question: now that I've evolved, is that decision any longer viable?
Mm.
An obsolete decision that I made in a less informed state? And if the answer comes back, no, it's no longer viable, you blink twice, delete that decision, and then make a new decision.
Yeah.
We can be upgrading our brain all the time like this. We just have a look at it again and we go, blink, blink, delete that decision. That was the decision I made when I was in a less informed state.
Mm.
Now I'm going to make a new decision about whether I can dance. Of course I can dance, because I don't care if people watch me. I'm going to love dancing. You can just make a decision where you are now. And we can be doing that all day long. It's such a simple technique. Every time you come up against the block, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm not any good at that, I'll never achieve that, then your next thought should be, when did I make that decision? How old was I? Where was I? Who was I with? Was it even my decision? When you ask the question, you immediately go there. And the hard part is to think, can that possibly be true?
Yeah.
Could that possibly, but you have to accept it and then go, okay, look at it again from where you are now and go, now I've evolved. Is it any longer viable, that decision? Look, delete it. We don't have to live with those things. And so it's the same with our beliefs to some extent. This is just me, okay? Because I'm slightly crazy, but for me, beliefs are simple. Does this belief empower me or not? If it doesn't empower me, I can choose to believe something else, because none of it's real.
No, it's not. And that's the thing. Our beliefs aren't true, but they do structure our reality, how we behave and how we live. And at any point, when we create awareness around it, we can absolutely change any of them. But the first step is awareness and understanding that we are hugely emotionally influenced. And that's how you can use emotion so well within hypnotherapy, by tying it to an emotion, like you mentioned with smoking earlier. And some of where our beliefs were originally formed when we were children was, again, through emotion, trying to fit in with these people or belong to these people or be loved by these people. We formed beliefs about ourselves that we'd fit in, that we'd get that love, that we'd learn to behave particular ways to achieve that. And from that little child in that environment, we've been carrying those behaviors because of those beliefs for the rest of our lives. Be it, it's not okay to speak up. It's, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. These things shape our decisions for years after, until we actually go back and go, at what point did I decide, I wasn't good enough, or I didn't fit in? Because again, they're made from a kid's perception. And we're not living in that reality. We're not living in that world anymore. And therefore, those beliefs are obsolete. They don't serve us anymore. And changing them up and building in empowering beliefs for where we are now, because all those negative ones are hugely influencing our behavior, and certainly deciding where we think we fit in and where we belong and how we show up.
like you said, you don't have to live in any of those beliefs. And with the blink and delete technique, I say, how old was I, where was I, who was I
Yeah.
with, and was it even my opinion or even my decision? And when you ask that question, many times, like you've just been saying, it was someone else's opinion about your dancing. Sometimes it's they're well-meaning. It might be a parent who doesn't want you to be embarrassed by whatever,
Yeah.
but it's still someone else's belief, someone else's opinion. And so you can say, okay, well, everyone's a right to an opinion, but that's just an opinion.
Yeah.
I'm going to dance. I'm going to achieve.
Yeah.
And, that's the way it should be, and
Yeah.
so that if you look at everything we are and the things we're able to do as human beings are learnt behaviors, driving, walking, talking, reading, writing, riding a bike, swimming, playing an instrument, you name it, hundreds, thousands of things that we can do automatically. That enables us to function at the level we function as human beings. It makes us,
Phenomenal.
yeah, but it's incredible.
Yeah.
Just think about driving alone. How many movements you have to make on the pedals and the gears, and you're not doing that consciously. After a while,
No.
it becomes automatic.
Then you have the radio on, you're listening to the song or whatever's on there while you're driving. You're looking around you to see what's coming around. Or,
Conversation, all that stuff. But so that ability is immense.
yeah.
And it works for us. It enables us to function as we function. So otherwise, we'd have to think about, I'm going to turn the steering wheel, I'm going to put my foot on a pedal. Your brain would be so full of that. Just think about walking. We have to learn to walk. No, we don't. We have to learn to walk. If we had to think about walking, I've got to put this foot here, that foot there, balance, put that foot. You'd have to be so full of walking.
Oh, you'd never be able to do anything else. Yeah, all your conscious thinking to be taken up on just focusing on the walking.
But that's great, and it allows us to learn something and then let it become automatic. And that enables us to function like we function. Where it works against us is when we learn a habit like smoking or biting your fingernails or anything else that becomes an automatic function.
Or the inner, like even the inner critic or George, that voice that's in your head, just telling you you're not good enough or you're not. That again is a pattern.
Your way of thinking.
Exactly. Even all of those, you pick that up when you were very, very young. You felt guilty or ashamed of a behavior. I don't know, as a kid, kids run around pulling up their dresses or, messing around and someone saying to you, that's bold, you're not allowed to do that, never do that again, or whatever, can cause a little kid to feel slightly ashamed or embarrassed, and it's from not necessarily terrible things happening by any means, just these things. Again, the child makes a decision at that time because they don't want to feel that way again. So I'm not going to do this again, and that judge comes in, or critic, to be constantly basically keeping you in your box that you don't feel that way again, when in fact it's no longer serving you. It hasn't served you in years, and as you say, it's a habit or pattern of thought.
Yeah, and it is just that. It's a piece of programming. It's a piece of learned behavior, but it can happen in an instant. Like someone makes you feel ashamed and says something. That's there's a part of our brain, right? It's called the amygdala. You know all about this. And it's probably the most primitive part of a human being. And every creature with a vertebrae has the amygdala, right? So apart from anything else, it runs our fight and flight response. Let's say a dog jumps up and bites you. As soon as you feel the pain, you look at the dog, you feel the pain, the amygdala fires off, takes a snapshot of that dog. Everything about it, the way it smells, the way it sounds, the way it looks. In an instant, your brain goes, anything that looks like that, again, be afraid. So it's protecting, but that's with a physical pain. But it can be the same if a child's made to feel ashamed. In that moment, the amygdala fires off. It doesn't want you to get hurt again. So I go, any situation like this, remember, and those words that person said to you are then kind of embedded, and it become a program. But you grow up and you realise that was just a childish thing, but you still feel that shame, even at such and such a situation. So what I think hypnosis does, I've been doing this for a long time. How I see it is that hypnosis gives the operator, the hypnotist or the hypnotherapist, access to that underlying programming. I say to clients that you've been come and see me for smoking. I say I've been smoking 30 cigarettes a day now for 30 years. I say it's an incredible feat.
Yeah, well done.
Try and remember to do something 30 times a day, every day for 30 years without a fail. That's incredible. You couldn't do that consciously. At some point, maybe as a child, you went, this is important for me. I'm going to have 30 cigarettes a day. At the moment, you create a piece of programming. So you don't have to think about cigarettes ever again.
Mhm.
But now it just happens. But it's a piece of programming. And for someone to say, for the doctor to say, look, you need to quit smoking. You've got to quit smoking. It's like saying to your doctor, okay, doctor, I want you to forget how to walk, get how to speak. You'd
Yeah.
say that's ridiculous. It's no longer something I think about, it's something I just do. And it's the same for people who smoke. Once it becomes something we do automatically, and we can look at most of our behaviors like that, even negative self-talk becomes habitual.
Oh,
It's something that happens automatically. I
mhm.
think about doing something and a little voice goes, why bother? You're never going to do it. You're not any good. You know, it's habitual. It's just a bit of programming. And hypnosis, that's how I see it, can get to that piece of programming and change it. I say to people who smoke, I say, imagine if we could get that program doing something of benefit you 30 times a day, something of real value for you. Rather than looking at it as something bad, it's an incredible piece of programming. Let's change it. We don't have to eliminate it. We can just change it up.
Mm.
That voice in your head that's saying you can't do this, you can't do that. Why don't we get it to say to change the dialogue and say you can achieve anything. You can achieve anything. You're brilliant, whatever it might be, and we can change it with hypnosis. And that's the joy of it for me. It's not me putting my influence on someone and making them do stuff. In fact, I don't see myself doing anything in a therapy room, and that comes down to eliminating pain or helping people heal. I don't do anything. What I do, what I have the ability to do, and what I teach people how to do, is to get into it, is to help my client get out of their own way, get that conscious part of their voice, which is going, you can't do this, you'll never be well, get out of the way. And so they get access to the underlying programming and
Yeah.
they change it, not me. All
Mm.
I'm doing is a catalyst to get them into that state where they get access to all their own healing abilities, their own powers, their own, fearlessness, whatever it might be. And it can happen very quickly. And they go out and they think, well, he's just talking to me for an hour and I need a cigarette, or now I've got that fear, or now I know I can achieve this. I haven't done anything. Some people say to me, someone said to me the other day, you're a healer. I said, no, I don't do anything. You're the healer.
Mhm.
All I've done is give you access, enable you to get in touch with your own healing abilities, which we all have. People go out my room and I say, I can't feel that fear anymore. I say, no, because it was never real in the first place.
Exactly. Exactly.
It was
Yeah.
never real.
Yeah.
And back to that first question you were talking about being in trance, for me now, if you look at it like this, instead of thinking, oh, people are going to come into your therapy room, now I'm going to hypnotize them, I've got to figure out what I can say to make them do what they want to do. Instead of thinking like that, think of the other way around. This person's already in trance, albeit a 20-year, I can't quit smoking trance, or
Yeah.
a 30-year, I can't lose weight trance, or a 30-year spiders are terrifying trance. Either way, whether self-suggested or suggested, they're coming in trance. In reality, what we can do, and what I have done in the past, is explain that to my client by showing them some phenomena, maybe sticking their hands together or sticking them in a chair, doing something where they can't move,
Mhm.
and then explaining that that's no different to the stuck state they're in. It's
Yeah.
just a belief that's holding them in that chair or holding their hands together. And then I've said to them, look, in a moment, I'm going to hypnotize you. And at some point, I'm going to count to three. You're going to come out of that 20-year I can't quit smoking trance. And I'm going to leave you in a positive Freddy trance where you can quit, you can live your life. And I know it sounds weird because when I finish a session, anyone listening would think, oh, right, he's bringing me out of hypnosis because I count to 10. And it sounds like a count out, but I never bring anyone out of trance. I think they come in trance,
Yeah.
albeit negative, I can't do something trance. And why would I then hypnotize and do all the work and then go, you know, and 10 eyes open, everything back to normal? Their back to normal wasn't very good. It sounds like this is how I end my sessions, right? I say, in a moment, I'm going to count to 10. On 8, your eyes will open, you're going to feel incredible. And on 10, you're going to have a feeling of empowerment and the need for a cigarette to be gone, or you're going to lose weight, or you'll never be afraid again. And so get ready. So I go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, eyes open, you think absolutely incredible, 9, 10. There's no back in the room, wake up.
Mm.
Their eyes are open.
Where effectively you've created a new upgraded trance that supports them and where they want to be. It's a new program that you're building into the subconscious and kicking out the old one that's been keeping them stuck where they didn't want to be.
That's how I see it. I don't see it as any more complex than that. You know, and so my working over these years has made things pretty simple for me. I
Mm.
see things much easier than I don't think it's complex. And I think we all have the ability to make these changes. Someone could come to you and they could learn self-hypnosis. And
Mm.
I'm always going to teach my clients how to go into trance by themselves. Because I think, as I said earlier, it's a natural ability. We just don't know
Yeah.
we have it. So we have to be taught how to do it. But once we know how to do it, I want this to happen. I want that to happen. Instead of letting our bodies rule us, our bodies are there to serve us. So we
Mhm.
can say, how do you want to be physically? How do I want my body to be? And I'm going to give my unconscious mind the suggestions to do what's necessary to create the body I want or to create the health I want.
Mhm.
And then we just put it in the back of our mind and we leave it and it goes on. One of the most important things I've kind of um, come to the conclusion of recently, and this is a friend of mine in Australia. Her name's Gayleen, very Australian name, if you ask me. She's fantastic anyway. And she's very, she comes up with these nuggets of gold. And we were talking about, what do they call it when you manifest? Law of attraction. Now, it's a big thing out there. And one of my friends, Victoria Marie Gallagher, she's wrote the book, Practical Law of Attraction. She's very good at what she does. But what this friend Galen was saying, that what's missing from that, because you say, okay, I'm gonna visualize myself in this house. I'm gonna ask the universe to give me a bank full of money and all that kind of stuff. And apparently that kind of
Mm.
follows. And but she said what's missing from that is feeding into the outcome. And so,
The
because
emotion.
what she says is this, she said that as humans, we want to feel good. We're geared toward pleasure. We want to feel good. We want to enjoy life. We want to, so kind of we're geared toward pleasure. So she says this, and I use it all the time now. She said, if you, let's imagine you want to create the body you want. Right? So let's say you've got an idea of how you want to be physically. So you kind of go out and you kind of do it in trance or out trance, but go out and visualize yourself having achieved that goal. So you
Mm.
see yourself with the body you want, create the body you want. And then you say, step into that body and feel into it. So get a sense of what it feels like to be in that body. You've created the body you want. Now get a sense of what it feels like. And then ask this question: how much fun is this? How much
Yeah.
fun can I make it? How important is it for me? Now get a real sense of how much fun it is. Put that in the back of your mind. And then everything about your nature is geared toward making it happen. Because we want to feel pleasure. If we know how good it's going to feel, then we find ourselves just moving toward it without thinking.
100%.
And that's what's missing from most of those things where they say, see yourself out there. But it's okay seeing yourself there. It's okay imagining having the money you want or the house you want or the life you want. But unless you feel into it, that's the thing that was missing. Feel into it. How's that going to feel when you've got the business you've got running? How
Mm.
good are you going to feel when you look and feel great or you're fitting well? Whatever that outcome is, get a sense of what it feels like, step into it, feel into it, ask the question, how much fun is it? How much fun can I make it?
Because that's the buy-in for us. We're emotional beings. If we know we're going to get the good feels, the good emotions, fulfill the desires, get that pleasure, 100%, that'll turn every bit of focus in the brain towards it, because that's what we'll go after, like a heat-seeking missile. And that's the difference, because we're chasing those amazing feelings, that fun, that desire, that pleasure. And once we feel into it and know what way we'll feel when we have that body or have that €1,000,000, we're gone in that direction, chasing it. It puts the brain of focus on that.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I've got some really incredible friends, and most of them I haven't met, to be honest with you, because they're online. Gayleen's one of them. I feel like I've known her for a couple of years, and she's great. But she comes up with these nuggets of gold. But there's another friend of mine. I have met her actually when I was presenting in Las Vegas. I met her there, and she was presenting there as well. Her name's Sandra Grace. She's in the States, but she asks the two best questions ever asked, as far as I'm concerned. And anyone who's listening, I want you to ask these questions.
Mm.
Ask these questions because your life changes. And she asked these questions when it comes to living the life we want. She asked these two questions: what has to happen for you to love yourself enough to treat yourself to the life you really want? What has to happen for you to love yourself enough? So that's why I think it's the best question ever. If we can answer that question, what has to happen for us to love ourselves enough to treat ourselves to the body, the health, the life we want. And then the second question she asked, which is equally as important, if you're not living that life now, if not, why not? And if you answer those two questions, then your life changes. You know me now, Linda. You've worked with me, and you've seen my groups. The bottom line for me in all of the work I do now, and again, this is from Galen. This is, it's a bit of learning from Galen. I've got to give her the credit for it. But I want all my clients to get a sense of an unconditional self-love. And that's not, oh, I love myself, an arrogance. It's an unconditional self-love.
And I think I've said this to you before, Freddie. I think when we're kids, we have all that. We come in connected, whole, feeling like we belong. We come in completely loving ourselves, all of that when we are born and when we're children. And we create imaginary worlds and we feel into everything. And I think then we create all, the beliefs, some of them negative. We find out where we fit in or where we believe we fit in. And I think we spend a monstrous amount of our adult life chasing how we felt when we were that child, that wholeness, that contentedness, that not needing to be anything more than we were. A kid will run up to you with a snotty face or drooling for a hug or a kiss, because kids don't care. They don't go, oh, hold on and I'll clean myself up, wash myself before I hug or kiss you. They don't care. They will be covered in muck and dance. They don't go, oh Jesus, don't let anyone see me like this. None of that, because they're whole. They're just there, they feel like they belong, they feel completely loved, they have everything we were born with. And I think, as I say, we spend a chunk of our adult lives, after forming all those beliefs about ourselves and sense of self and all that, trying to get back to the way we felt when we were a kid, that wholeness, that full being.
Yeah, and what I when I run any of my group stuff, and I know you've experienced it when you came to a retreat.
Yeah,
but I get people to, I say, in a moment, you have the best experience ever of freedom and liberation, because in a moment, the essence of who you are, the intangible part of a human being, the passenger, the observer, that part of you that's watching you behaving badly, going, you shouldn't be doing that, or whatever it might be, that the passenger in your body. I get that to, separate. I mean, some cultures call it spirit, soul, but I call it the essence. I get it to separate, and I get them to look back at their body and appreciate their body. But when they're in that space and they're drifted away, I say to them, like, the essence of who you are. Because I say, look, just for a moment, go back to 3 months old, when all you wanted was to be held and loved and fed. At that point, that point in your life, when you're 3 months old, 2 months old, 4 months old, you're just pure love. You don't know about hatred. You don't know about lying. You don't know about any of that stuff. You're just pure love and just pure joy. And I say that is the essence of who we are. All the world gets to you. Essence of who you are is pure light, pure joy, pure love. And that's who we are. And I'll get my clients to experience that again, or people in my group to experience that again, and understand that's who they are. And then, when they reintegrate into their body again and bring that feeling of unconditional self-love back. Because this is how it came about with Galen. I was running a training with my son. And as you know, when we're going to demonstrate a technique, like for a habit or something, we ask the class, anyone got a habit they want to overcome, we'll demonstrate one of the students. And the girl put her hand up, and my son Anthony said, "How can I help you?" She said, "I want to stop swearing so much." so anyway, so I worked with her. Anyway, after the little demonstration, I said to Anne, my son Anthony, I said, "Why don't you ask if she wanted to stop swearing completely?" He said, "That's ridiculous. You want to stop swearing completely?" Part language, right? So I said, because the class was all there, they were all listening to me. I said, "Oh, well, I don't think we need to swear. In fact, I'm going to stop swearing." So because I'd said it, I was very aware of when I was swearing, because I didn't stop. What I realised was that all of the swearing I was doing was at me. You effing this, you stupid that, you. So I was speaking to my friend Gayleen, and I was telling this because I thought it was quite funny. And she said, "That's self-abuse." And I never thought of it like that. She said, "That's self-abuse." She said, "What you need to feel is an unconditional self-love." And so she kind of helped me get there. We worked together, and she helped me get to that space. And my life changed in that moment, because once you have an unconditional self-love, you stop feeding yourself rubbish. Why would you feed rubbish to someone you love? Stop beating yourself up over every little mistake. I say, if you have a friend that you love and they make a mistake, you don't stop loving them
Oh,
because they make a mistake. But yeah, if we make a mistake, we beat ourselves up over it. We're horrible to ourselves. And so once you get an understanding of that feeling of unconditional self-love, you stop beating yourself up over every little thing, and you treat your body with a bit more kindness. Because why would you treat someone you love to something that's detrimental to them? You don't do it. And my life changed in that understanding. So I want all my clients at some point to get a sense of that unconditional self-love, because I think it's the most important thing. Why would you quit smoking if you don't love yourself? Why would you stop beating yourself up every moment if you don't love yourself? So for me, it's one of the most important things, both most important understandings. And so my goal in every therapy session is to get my client to feel into that. And then from there, they can then start to look after themselves. And understand, like you said, when you're talking about yourself as a kid, you're already a whole being. You don't need to be anyone else. You're already the most incredible creation. Whatever we think about ourselves, think about it. We are already the most incredible creation in this known universe. You are unique, Linda. There has never been another you. There's never going to be another you. We know the planet hit 8 billion people on this planet last few days ago, but there's only one of you. That's how incredible you are and how unique you are. And how unique.
I will dance.
Well, we're going to be in Dublin, so
Yeah.
to do some dancing, and you haven't seen me dance yet. That will really make you think, why have I not been dancing for years when I'm much better than Freddy? You'll think.
Bring it on. We'll be like two flamingos.
We should be, yeah, it'd be fantastic. Yeah. So
bring it on.
I don't let any of those limitations hold me back now. People, I don't know if you know, one of our students, a girl called Giselle Suarez. She lives in Arizona. Again, I've never met her, but I met her on a training. And she, throughout COVID, she did this thing called COVID karaoke. I think she had a few too many tequilas, and then she'd mime to all these different records. So I met her as one of the students, and we were talking. And I said, well, why don't you sing live? She's like, I've got a terrible voice. So I said, look, I play guitar. I've never played in public, and I'm 70. So I've never played in public. I said, but if you want, we'll get together. And so I recorded myself playing a song against a green screen, videoed myself. I'll send it to her. She's in Arizona. She sings along with it, videoing herself on her deck. I then self-impose, what's the word? Self-impose that film. So it looks like we're sitting on her deck. But what I'm saying is, she hasn't been her whole life. She's probably 50. She's never sung because someone said she can't sing. I think her husband's a musician, and he said, you should never sing in public because you've got a terrible voice. And that's enough to stop her. I got her singing. And yes, we're not the best, but who cares? I say, are we enjoying it? That's the main thing. Same with dancing. Doesn't matter how you're dancing. Are you enjoying dancing? That's what matters. Are you enjoying singing? That's what matters. Don't worry what anyone else.
Are you having fun?
Are you having fun?
Before we end this, Freddy, today's podcast, if you were to, because not everybody's going to have the privilege of actually going to see you in person or work with you. I know we have a weekend coming up where absolutely people can come and see us, but if you were to give people one piece of advice from all the experience and the learnings you've had, and you've traveled the world, and as they say, you'd certainly be someone I'd admire greatly and love your work, and I've read your book at least 5 times. If you to give people one piece of advice for living and being happier, what would it be?
I know it sounds crazy, but I would say that nothing's real. And people say, well, that's mad because I'm driving, my car's real. That's not what I mean. What I mean is when we think about our past, it's not exactly as it was because our memory's not 100%. And so if we're worrying about things we could have done, would have done, should have done, or could have done, it's pointless. The past is a vacuum. It's a void that stretches back to the Big Bang. What I've just said is now in that void. I can't get it back. It's done. And the future hasn't happened yet. So the future can only be imagined. So that's not real either. So it's only this moment we're living in, and it's so small. It's by the time I've said it, it's already passed. So if you're beating yourself up with something you did in the past, there is absolutely no point because it no longer exists. And if you're worrying about the future, it's just your imagination. So the secret is, once you understand this simple piece of information, is if you're worrying about something that's coming up and you're anxious about the future, imagine it differently. I believe our life is that simple. When we start to worry, just remember at this point in time, in this moment, it's just our imagination. We might as well imagine it differently. As you probably know, I sing to my clients, and you might not know actually, but I'm going to sing to you all podcasters. I told you I haven't got a very good voice. But I don't care, right? So this is what happens, and I do it to my clients. I know it sounds crazy, but people who are worrying and anxious about the future. Once I've explained that there's only this moment, the future is currently be imagined, the past no longer exists, and if you're worrying about the future, this is what's going to happen. Every time you start to feel anxious about something that might happen in the future, you're going to hear my voice singing this song, and it's going to bug you forever. Every time from now on, you start to worry, you start to get anxious, you can hear my voice singing this song. It's just my imagination running away with me. Just my imagination running away with me. And you're going to immediately come back to this moment and you're going to imagine it differently. So my advice to everybody was recognize, one, you're the most incredible being. And the essence of who you are is love. And you are love, you are loved, and you are loving. Understand that. Know that whoever you are, you're already a whole being. You're already the most incredible creation. And if you're worrying about something coming up, imagine it differently. Your life will change.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks very, very much.
Pleasure. Always a pleasure to speak to you, Lena.
Thanks for tuning in, folks, to this week's episode of Happiness is an Inside Job. I hope you really enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next week, same time, same place for the next episode.